Welcome to the Women of Soul Aligned Business Podcast. I'm Joe Che, and I'm here with Monica Bermudez. She is a #1 international bestseller, author of Cracking the Sacred Heart Code, and also the host of the Ascended Earth podcast. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you for having me, Joe. So great to be on your podcast.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. In your work, Monica, you talk a lot about when it comes to building businesses and moving forward. A big component of that is self-love and confidence. Is this what a lot of your work is centering around?
Yes, it is. I mean, it works a lot on building a strong foundation on self-love because if it's too shaky, then it could easily crumble when somebody, gets on you about your work and what you're doing, building that confidence and trust of where you're coming from. Because for me, it was like being a mystic behind the scenes, right? I was like a closet mystic, I would say, because I didn't really like talk about it publicly. Because when I got the guidance about doing things more in public and actually empowering others and helping them like build themselves up and confidence, so forth, I had to do that in myself first because I had extreme amount of stage fright. And part of it tied to like my own lack of self-worth, my low self-esteem, which are like little branches, I would say, of like the self-love foundation, right? And these are little cracks and stuff. Some of it, based on experience or like intermixed with like so much ancestry stuff. And so I really had to like dig in deep into all of that and rebuild my entire foundation pretty much and just strengthen it so that anybody who comes at you with like anything, and tries to attack you or like a troll, you're able to handle it in a much stronger way.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, it's very
beautiful.
key.
And I have found that it's important to have a self-awareness that we become experts at the things that we need the most for ourselves. I become an expert in the things that I need the most in connection and understanding relationships because I've struggled with that and in
Hmm.
communication and business building because I felt that scarcity. I needed that for myself and I needed that soul line of business to make money, not because I wanted to have a big impact in the world. And so that shift, and so for you to do this work and self-confidence, I think it's beautiful that you can recognize that that's what you needed for you, and that's why you have to put so much energy into it. I think it's a vulnerable and actually creates trust with people. So
Oh yeah.
I love to hear because a lot of the women that I'm working with and mentoring, that is a common theme of like I'm good and I love doing what I do, but I'm afraid to get in front of the camera. I'm afraid to just tell people what it is that I'm good at or to tell them that I have a program or service or product. So I would love to hear some of the ways that could be the most useful for women to hear if they're having that self-confidence issues. How do we as anyone bring that self-confidence up so that we can just be stronger and be more centered to ourselves and express ourselves?
Yeah, I think where I would start is looking at the areas that feel like they need to have validation and start by that validation with yourself. You don't need to have the external validation to be approved or to say that you're worthy. And those are like other pieces of the self-worth. So building up that confidence through our self-worth and making notes of like where those areas are that feels like you have that fear, wanting to get in public or talk. And now it's normal, right, to get like a little bit like nervous before you go do like public speaking. I mean, like for me, it was like an extreme like nervousness. Like I would almost get like sweaty hands, sweaty palms type thing. That was extreme. If it's like some level of like nervousness, it's okay. But if you're going through that nervousness of extremity like I was, it's so important, first of all, take a deep breath and just take a pause and for a moment and just focus on the why, focus on the reason for your message, where you're leading more from your heart than anything and communicating with others through your heart. So speaking from your heart. And then that also starts to ease a lot of the anxiety and someone like also regulate some of the nervous system as well because our nervous system can get a little rattled when it comes to feeling like we have to like go in public or talk to the people we want to reach out and talk to them about my program. And then just like start building that confidence through just being in the moment with yourself first and understanding yourself, understanding where this is stemming from as well, like understanding your shadow aspects, because there is a level of integration as well that goes with our shadow aspect. I see them as like little children that have stemmed from us through certain trauma or experiences that we've had in our lifetime. And so sometimes they may show up because they want our attention. They want us to understand them in a different way or see them in a different light. Yeah, so that's, where I would start, is being present with yourself first and giving yourself the space that you need to work through whatever fear is coming up, and just be aware of that first. Don't deny it because pushing it away is just going to make it worse, as I found.
Yeah, for sure. So some of the things I hear are coming into presence with self, speaking more from the heart. But what about the stage fright? The fear of being seen or mocked,
Mm.
or that's very real for many people.
Oh, it is. Yeah, the I call it the persecution energy of like an old
Mm.
energy. So when we start to really tune into our own heart and really step into fully of our heart and speak from our heart, a lot of that naturally starts to regulate, and then our nervous system tends to like calm down a little further, and just maintaining your focus of where it is the point of your message you're trying to make to others, right? You're delivering a service of like wanting to help others in a different way, and just focusing that awareness of helping someone else helps to ease some of that as well. So just focus on the reason for you being there, the why you're doing this in the first place, why you're here. And it all ties back to our purpose, right? And what we come to do here on earth in our mission. That was the reason why I also had so much stage fright. So I really had to like spend more time with myself. I had to really work on all of that and just tighten it up, my foundations. And part of that too is making declarations on a daily basis. I call them now like declarations or proclamations, which are much more emphasis than an affirmation. Like affirmations are great, but I feel like when you really proclaim to yourself, right, and declare to yourself that I am now this confident person, then you really are encoding it or engraving it within yourself. So it's probably like a pre-programming of self. And I've talked a lot about that on some episodes of my podcast about deprogramming and reprogramming self. It's almost like we're a software, the hardware and the software type thing, bringing in some of the technical aspects, I would say. So we could just pretty much reprogram ourselves to be this like badass woman or guy.
I'm curious because I have this process I give away for free, which is creating your daily affirmations. Because I agree with you, Monica, so much that we can reprogram ourselves. It's something I've been doing for myself for a very long time, many, many years. I wouldn't say every single day, but most days it actually has what I'm calling affirmations. And part of that is creating those affirmations for yourself. It's a process I take women through in the very beginning of like, if there's those blockages, is that reprogramming, right? Because it's absolutely necessary, number one. And part of it that I realize is you have to say it and keep saying it until you can feel it. Because once we can
Mm.
feel that emotion of I am brave or I am confident or I'm a badass in business and I'm making money doing what I love or whatever it is, you know, as we operate in these frequencies. Can you maybe help me understand what the next level is?
So think of a vow. Have you heard of people who've made those vows of celibacy or vows of poverty, right? And I feel there's so many of us who have been encoded with that programming that's kind of in the background playing over and over again. And so this is what is the biggest cause for like so many light workers and people like in the business, so aligned businesses who struggle with when it comes to like financial means or finances in any aspect of our life, right? And so the vow to me is like a proclamation that was made or declared several times, and that's why it's been so engraved. And so I feel that if we were to say dissolve ourselves from those vows and we will reprogram ourselves to new vows, then we're making a new proclamation to ourselves that in the proclamation, for example, could be from this day forward, I only receive all the resources that I need to fulfill my divine mission. So that's a step up from like an affirmation where it says that I am, abundant, I am so forth, but you're declaring to yourself that this is always going to be the case, and you can just keep doing that proclamation, repetition, those vows to yourself. You could do like your own sacred ceremony to that. And during the times when there are like, say, new moons, for example, right? Or like the Lionsgate portal that we're in right now. All of those, serve as a gateway for us to really set those in motion moving forward and restating or pretty much like rewriting our stories, of like the old traumas, rewriting them to be these new vows of like a happy ending, success stories, wins, so new stories for yourself.
I would love for you to share if you feel comfortable. What's a vow that you've given to yourself that you're repeating, or, and this might be vulnerable, so go to the
Mm.
level that you feel comfortable, but I think it could be inspiring for others to see, for someone that's working this, what are the vows that you needed to make to yourself, or maybe just one of them?
So the biggest one that I'm working on right now that I declare and I vow to be in financial freedom always. And so with that, just take that in. That's pretty much a powerful statement by itself.
That's a big one. Beautiful. Maybe I should try one. It feels a little scary though, right? Like what would I vow to myself that feels really true?
What would you desire?
I think something I'm noticing is when I'm noticing self, I have a neurodivergent brain, diagnosed with one of the worst cases of ADHD when I was a child. And what I've noticed is many times, and I've tried to create that as my superpower in some ways, but it still affects me in negative ways. And so one thing I've noticed is many times I get really curious about something, so I dive in and I go really deep and I build a business or something, and then I get a little bored of it, so I move to the next one. So I think my vow to myself would be I am going to stay focused on what I know is true for me, and I'm going to stick with it and not try to do too many things and build too many things at once. And I'm really going to vow to stay focused on helping amplify the voices of women who have beautiful missions and need that help of building the structures behind it. And I'm going to stick with that and not go off and get curious or interested in other things. And just I think just the vow is to stay on path and not get frustrated if things are not quite working, and instead of just doing something else and getting that ADHD, find the next shiny thing, to stick with the same thing. And I actually also want to vow, I had this opportunity for a very healthy relationship, and I'm going to vow to stick with that and give it the energy and the resources that it needs to thrive, and not commit to it, no matter what, but commit to, if it's in my highest good, to continue that and not get distracted with other shiny things or pretty objects, so to speak. Monica, thank you for that question. It feels really useful. And I just want to say, if there's any women watching out there, anyone watching, that maybe take a minute and pause this
Hmm.
podcast and ask yourself the question of what can you vow to yourself
Yeah,
that would actually really fulfill and get you into that soul purpose. What can you vow? Is
that's
this a
very
process
powerful.
you're taking people through, Monica?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of them. I do like so many things. I also work with the energy transmissions, like light language. That's another thing that that one just goes more into like the DNA and the cell. It does its own work. But this right here is like a very practical, easy way for somebody to do on their own. If they're at home wondering how do I get started, I would start with that because that's how I started when I went through my divorce, back in like 2013. I really was in a state of depression, like at a loss. Like I really thought that I was done with like life because I've always been an accomplished person. I've had like really great degrees in education that I thought the conventional way, right? And then that just like I have done so much mysticism, but it wasn't public. It was more like in private, my own little private bubble. And I thought I've done my service to humanity in my own way. So maybe this is it. Maybe I'm done. I don't have anything else. But what was like really happening was bubbling through my soul was this other like breakthrough that was coming through, like that was catalyzing. And that's when I really started to do a lot more nature walks, like hikes for like 3 hour long weekends. Like every weekend, just go up to the mountain and do some long hikes. And so what that did was that connection with nature and the trees and the forest bath was really opening up my intuition a lot more to really also trust another aspect of myself that I didn't really think I was ignoring it because I was in my state of depression. So I didn't really care to like hear anything from like angels and guides and those other stuff. But it was naturally like opening up for me. And so that's when I realized maybe I need to like start reprogramming myself. I started to get messages of like doing a whole new role that was more soul aligned, not the conventional way, not the stuff that I studied in school, not the engineering school. I would say like holistic or more in the mysticism or metaphysics. So that's when I said, I was like, but I haven't studied any of this. So I was really arguing back and forth with my own guidance and intuition. And I was really doubting, but they were very adamant and consistent with every single message that they were saying. And so that's a clue that when it is your own guidance, right? So that I ended up getting validation from others that that was the case, the messages that I was getting, and I would get validation from very specific people who knew nothing about me. It was exactly the messages that I was receiving. So that's when I started to realize that I really need to start trusting my own guidance and my own inner intuition as well. Building that confidence and making those declarations, those vows was really like my starting point to really build that foundation for me. From that, when the patterns start to break, is when you also start to crack open other areas, right? You go past the wounds, cracking open those wounds, right? And what you find in there is this renewal, this renovation, I would say, of ourselves and tapping into the infinite source of self love, right? Of divine self love and really reconnecting our hearts back to our true nature of what we're meant to be in our wholeness through our divine feminine and our divine masculine energy that makes us complete throughout our whole system. So it's a more reconnection, it's a remembrance, it's a reconnection, it's a renewal.
I love to talk more about this self-love because even though it's a podcast of soul-aligned business, the self-love is an important component. I remember I was at this beautiful friends weekend and a friend of mine just said to me, Joe, I don't know how much self-love you have for yourself. And it was a bit offensive and it was also like, what? And when I reflect on it, I realize there's a lot of truth to that. And it's like operating out of this need for validation, operating and doing things not out of service to others, but out of service to, I was doing helping a lot of other people. But like the energetics was, I'm helping so I can be liked instead of being, I'm helping because that is what I'm supposed to do. And so I started saying, okay, well, maybe this is true and I don't have a lot of self-love. So how do I create more of it? And like I started asking people about it. I'm like, and I started researching. I couldn't find a lot of information of how to increase self-love. There was one where you like sit in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself, and that was like the only one I could really find that seemed like a real practical things. I had to find some ways with myself, and now I have a bunch of them. Then some of them are you probably laugh at, but one of them is uh, every morning I just have this very expensive, like face and wrinkle cream, and I put it on, and I just look at myself. It's like, I love you, Joey, and like, and just like, and then hold. And other ones for me are taking time to like take care of my body and vitamins and biohacking and trying to support myself in the way that I would show up for others, like showing up for myself. And do you have any other ways, Monica, that we can share with people to create more self-love so that they can feel that confidence to go into those businesses? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said is great. And the biggest one is showing up for yourself and really just treating yourself. If you want to go to like a restaurant and take yourself on a date, do that. Don't be ashamed that it's just you and don't feel that, other people are staring at you. And that's the way to also like really boost your own self-love, to really be there for yourself, most of all. And it's not about like seeking the external validation, but it's more of your own validation and saying that you are enough and you are worthy and deserving of the things that you have and more, and being grateful for all of that. Gratitude is one of the biggest ones, right? I use a lot of gratitude for my manifestation, but it's also one that can generate self-love foundations too, because you can also be grateful to past versions of yourself for being where you're at. Be grateful for your future version of yourself who is one of your guides now, because who better knows you than yourself, you see? So, starting with that and establishing that reconnection, that communication with self in the present moment of things, because that's where all the action is in the present. And so, where the reconnection of your past version and your future self come in this one space, in the void of your own recreation, and that reconnection of the vastness that you are at the soul. And in that vastness of your own soul is where the deepest and most powerful divine love exists. So there's plenty of that for yourself. So that is, I'll tell you though, like for me, like after the divorce, the biggest thing that I noticed is how imbalanced I was with my giving and receiving. Like I was always a giver, a nurturer in every aspect, just always giving to others, but never giving to myself. And I lost control of my own health. I lost control of my own mental health as well, just burnouts all the time and always saying yes to everything just because, you thought you were always being of service or helping people. But we can't help other people if we're not helping ourselves first. If we're going to be in a burnout state, if we're going to be like in a depleted state, like a cell phone battery, it's not going to continue to operate. So you want to always replenish yourself and fill your own cup first.
What a beautiful reminder, and also as someone that identifies as an overgiver. And it's been a struggle, even just receiving the gifts that I want to give. Like for years and years, I was mentoring women, and I would never take any money because coming from this Christian background is like there is this nobility in being a martyr,
Yeah.
right? The more you can give and take away and suffer in your
Hmm.
giving, the more heavenly or noble it is. And so
Yes.
it was really hard to just say, yeah, I would love to help you and let's fight financially for that energy to be exchanged. And it's not about trying to just do it for the money, but just to do it in a way where that energy, oh wow, like, I have the resources that I need to take care of myself, and now I can just give and give, and I can
Hmm.
overgive, but it still feels good. The lesson I had to learn is surround myself with people who are also very generous, so
Hmm.
that now I can allow myself to be generous with the people around me because, and it's not about tit for tat, it's more of just like I can give of myself, and wow, I'm receiving a lot too, and someone's paying for the villa this weekend, and someone else is bringing all the equipment, and I'm bringing this, and it's like just being around people that are constantly giving of themselves in a generous way, because
Hmm.
otherwise, in my connection map, we call that a black hole connection. It's one where they're sucking all your energy, all the energy can't escape, and then ultimately you start resenting that person or you become an enabler, and it actually doesn't help them.
Exactly.
So I think that's interesting one of just being cognitive of how much you're giving and over. And if you are giving, making sure you're not doing it to people please, but because that is truly a gift that would be joyful for you to give someone else. And this is very relevant in business, right? Because this is where when we have our offering, our product, or whatever it is that's out there, we have to feel confident about the value of that and not overconfident. Sometimes people are always like, my course is $7,777, and I'm from Bali, so there's a lot of angel numbers and pricings. I'm
Hmm.
just like, is that really what you think it's worth and what the market think it's worth, or are you just making up an angel number for the sake of an angel number? And I have nothing against that, but it's like the idea is find something that feels like an equitable exchange where you can give of yourself and price things so that they're reasonable and they're accessible to the people that you want to serve.
Hmm.
What I always do is I always give scholarships. I say, hey, this is the value. But listen, if you really have a strong mission, you want to build this business and you're just not in a financial place, hit me up. Tell me your vision. If I really believe this is in alignment to what you're doing and what I'm doing, like I'll figure out a way to give you a scholarship into it. And it's like, but there's still, and I've realized I've stopped giving away these too much because as soon as I give it away, people don't show up for what I'm giving. They don't take it
Exactly.
seriously. They don't do the whole process. And it's like, wow, I just feel like I gave you $1,000. People are paying $1,000 for this. I just gave it to you for free because I love you and you're my friend, and you're the only one not taking it seriously. And so now it's like pay $100 or $200, which is way too little, but it's like enough that it stings that they actually will do the process and take it freaking seriously. Have you found that
Yeah.
also?
I mean, there's a fine line, right, to our balancing of our energy, our value, and our worth, right? Because I like to think of our energy as equivalent to what we put our price and value and worth and things, right? When it comes to business, a lot of our business mirrors us as
Yeah.
well, what we're going through. So you can think of your business as like being your child too. If you just started right, think of it as a baby. Where is it right now? Like if you ask yourself, where is your business right now? Would you say it's a teenager? Would you say it's an adult? As a baby? And from there, like how would you treat that child? So you could think of it as like your inner child too. A lot of our inner child healing that we all go through, like it all ties into our value and worth and the pricing that we're putting and how much of our investment we put in ourselves. All of that is equivalent and ties into the price that we put on things, right?
There's a saying that says you're only worth as much as you say you're worth. So if you say you're worth zero, that's what you're worth. And so the pricing is part of what you believe that you are worth, or your service or your product or your object is worth, is what you say it is. And it can't be more than that. No one's going to, if you say, hey, buy my widget for $10, no one's going to offer you $2,000 for it, even if it's worth 2,000 or it's worth to someone 2,000. So it's like, it's important to get really clear in your pricing, and it's okay to start lower to build that confidence and build up. Because I've made the mistake the first time I really changed a lot of what I was doing. I created a 3-month program, and it was like I didn't have a lot of people signing up, and I was so disheartened by that. I'm like, oh my God, I spent a year building this program. It's like everything I have ever learned in the last 30 years, and it, like, it was so valuable, and I couldn't understand that. There was different reasons for it, but part of it is sometimes getting people in the door, executing it, getting more and more confidence, and believing in yourself that it truly is worth it. And when you speak about it like with that care of, like, as if you love yourself, of like, yeah, I'm doing this amazing program. I am, taking women through an entire year of building and scaling their business. I'm excited about it, and there's a lot of value, and we're going to do it together and step by step, and we're going to all the stuff, and like know the value in helping someone build their business.
It all ties back to self-love. These are all like little branches of that, right? If you think of it like, I guess, a tree with branches, right? In a self-love tree, you have a branch of value, of worth. And so each one is growing in its own different way, depending how, like, the roots that you set, right, for your own self-love, putting a strength to it. So you can think of the tree as kind of like the redwood trees with a huge trunk, right? Always growing, and maturing in its own way as you build your own confidence as well. And when I first started with my business, of course, I did like maybe one or two, like a few trials, let's just say for free, right? Because I wasn't sure what the energy was doing. So that helped me just get that boost of like feedback from others who were receiving it. So I didn't charge, at first because I wasn't sure. Like I was still in that a bit of a doubt. So I didn't have any actual mentors with me or like tell me. So that's why now I help other people like through mentoring and empowerment coaching pretty much to help them get themselves rooted in that, starting with their self-love as well and validation to themselves. So that's a lot of like investment of years, like in myself and energy of doing all of that. And so you calculate that and you put all of that together. That's how you build the foundations of your business as well, your soul aligned business. It all ties into as well your own self-love roots as you see your own child growing, or tree, however you want to like look at it. But yeah, so those things, all those things are knowing that, building that confidence for yourself.
Yeah. Beautiful, so true. Monica, if people want to, anyone listening wants to work on that self-love, feel free to reach out to Monica. If you are a woman listening and want help uncovering that soul purpose and how to make money at it, and actually I'll help you build it over a year program, hit me up. I answer all my messages personally. I love to hear from you. And Monica, thank you so much for being with us today. What a beautiful soul purpose and bringing people into that self love. I really love that one. And I know it's something that is a constant journey for me that I'm learning. Thanks everyone for joining the Women of Soul Aligned Business podcast. Have a great
Thank you
day.
so much, Joe. Take care. Bye.